Okay, I did a video on perfectionism, but it's nowhere near good enough, so we're doing another one. Um, so I put something up in the room today that was about perfectionism and about the different kinds of imposter syndrome, and a bunch of people stepped up and said, "Oh, I see myself there, I see myself there," and somebody stepped up and said, "I'm not on that list." And the thing I want to talk to you about is who owns the real estate in your brain. So that voice that says you're not good enough, either because everything must be perfect, all the reasons that are listed in that fantastic meme, just really good, or I'm not good enough, I never was good enough, nothing ever was good enough. Why even bother trying? I don't have the training, I don't have the background, they all know more than I do. There are all kinds of ways that imposter syndrome can get in your way. But in fact, the modality of how you get in your own way isn't the bit that matters. What matters is understanding that somebody else's programming is running you. And you're allowing somebody else's judgment, their praise or lack of praise, their approbation, the punishment that they would wreak on you, the imprint that happened when you were pretty small and needed to get things right. There was a right way and there was a wrong way, and the world was very binary. And as simple as learning to do up your laces, and whether or not you were right or left-handed, and whether or not everything in some way was graded, even if your parents went in for positive reinforcement, because positive reinforcement has a shadow, and that shadow is not getting the praise when you don't hit that marker. So unless you've got people around you who are super plugged into trying is the point, then you're going to be in reward punishment land. And your head is going to live in reward punishment land. And if you don't get something right, maybe the first time, you're going to punish yourself, because that's what you were taught to do. I'm so sorry, Mother. I mean, you just were a hard act. So my mother was terrified of fat, terrified of it. And you've heard this story before. I was not allowed to eat potatoes growing up because she did not want me to be, quote, fat like my grandmother. Liam and Gavin were allowed to eat potatoes, but I wasn't allowed to eat potatoes. And throughout my life, there were two ways my mother would greet. I went to boarding school, so I would be gone for, the entire semester. And then I went away to university and stayed away. And the two ways that she would greet me would be, "Oh, you've lost weight!" Or, "Don't you look healthy?" And I remember as young as 8 being in the living room in Berlin, and we were sitting on the floor, and she had rolled up our trouser legs, and she was saying to my father, "My legs are better than hers, aren't they?" Which, now that I think about it, is a super weird thing to be doing. But at the time, she was so competitive, and those voices in her head were so damning, and she was so damaged that it wasn't possible for her to think about not competing with an 8-year-old. And the way that I coped was to try to be as perfect as possible. And the way my brother coped was to throw the towel in and say, "There's no way that I can live up to that. I'm not even going to try." And those voices, they are imprinted in your head. You have to be kind to yourself about the fact that these voices exist in your head and that they require you to be perfect. And it has nothing at all to do with whether or not you make peace with or forgive or release your parents. It has nothing to do with them anymore, because you're an adult. And now you get to decide, I want to do something, and the voices in my head get in the way of me doing that thing, because they... Stella! They tell me that in some way that I'm not good enough and I should stop trying. Or I feel so bad that I don't go in for a second round. Or I so much believe that I'm not going to make the grade that I'm not even going to try. There are lots of ways that you can know if you are called to do something. It can be, lots of people talk about, I see the movie in my head and I just have to get it on the page and I'm really excited. And I absolutely don't see movies in my head. That's not how stories come to me. I have friends who like having written, but they don't necessarily like the process. And I have friends for whom I could do that with my hands tied behind my back. So if you have joy in reading, joy in writing, jealousy, anger, reaction, any reaction tells you that there's emotion under there. And if you have read somebody's book and you've said some version of, I could do that, then you could. And you should. And the fact that you are judging that book as subpar is speaking to your own misbelief. It is telling you something about how you judge yourself, and it's a form of keeping you down, because that's not you trying, that's you telling yourself that you can't do it. So we've got this, 6 months coming up, and you're going to have a lot of fingerprints on your manuscript, and you're going to get a lot of feedback. You're learning a new system, you're learning a new genre, and I'm going to be batting you into shape to get this to be something that our readers will love. And you're going to have to deal with those voices in your head that tell you that you're not good enough. And I want you to counter those voices. I want you to start retraining your brain. Or if you've already started retraining your brain, I want you to kick it up a notch. I want you to get to, I am unstoppably brilliant. I am a wonderful writer. I really want you to reach, because it isn't about thinking about what if, in your teenage years and in your 20s, wow, what if I had been encouraged? What would my life look like if someone had been in my corner? What would it look like if? And at some point that has to end. And it doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50. It doesn't matter. You get to say today, what if I do that? What if I take charge? What if I rewire my brain? What if I don't require it to be perfect? What if I let the text go that has got the spelling error in it? What if I try, even though nobody has ever told me that I can do it? What if I take responsibility for me being the best me that I can be? Trust me when I tell you this is going to be just as hard for me as it is for you. And if I can do it, you can do it. So let's be the anti-perfectionists and get shit done.